Lincoln Mitchell is an adjunct associate professor of political science at Columbia University. He joins me now from New York. Good to have you on the program with us. The Russian president says he intends to achieve his military goals in Ukraine. So what do you think the Kremlin has in mind for the country?
I think the Kremlin has in mind continuing this war until they destroy the country. I mean, they destroy the leadership of the country. They oust the current regime, and that will be a very violent and bloody affair because the Ukrainian military and the Ukrainian people are fighting back. But for Putin to back down now, within the logic of what's going on in Vladimir Putin's mind, there's no sense in that. To have this, because even if he says, okay, we're pulling everything out tomorrow, he's done enough damage to himself and to his country's standing in the world that there will be a consequence. So at this point, he might as well try to achieve what he can and negotiate from perhaps a position of strength. But that's not much of a position of strength for him.
A third round of peace talks is due soon. There hasn't been anything achieved so far. Are you optimistic about the ongoing talks?
In the short term, no. This is, I mean, you always want to be talking rather than not talking. No harm comes from talking. But my sense is that Russia will begin to engage more seriously in these peace talks when they've accomplished more in the military campaign, and the military campaign is going neither as quickly nor as well as Moscow thought it would. So my fear here, and I think the previous guest discussed this, is that Russia will accelerate the attacks, will increase the attacks to get in a strong military position, and then go to the negotiating table in a more serious way.
And you just said these attacks are not going as quickly or as well as Moscow thought they would. I think that's pretty obvious to everyone, but Putin today still insists that the attack on Ukraine is going according to plan. What do you make of those remarks?
Well, what else is Putin going to say, right? He's not going to come to the world and say, oh, we're really surprised here. These Ukrainians are tough. We weren't as strong as we thought he would. He can't say that to the international audience, and he certainly can't say that to the domestic audience. And given the way the media works in Russia, there's not exactly any media freedom in Russia. He could have, some of the Russians will see that. They'll see the propaganda and they'll believe it. But, we don't know much about the inner workings of Putin and his inner circle, but we've heard enough reports that he is isolated from the people who used to be closer to him, that during this COVID period, he's really isolated himself. So it is possible that he's not getting the full information either, that people are not coming to him and showing just how badly it's going. I mean, as media and as observers from the outside, and I'm sitting in New York, we're getting media reports, but the Russian intelligence may have information that this is going even worse, and they may not be sharing that with Putin.
Okay, Finland's president, meanwhile, is due in Washington on Friday as the country's parliament mulls NATO membership. Do you think further expansion is possible, especially in light of this incursion in Ukraine?
Well, the invasion of Ukraine is a reminder of the value of NATO, because one of the reasons that Putin is having this war rather than one with much smaller and weaker countries like, for example, Latvia, is because Latvia, Estonia, and Lithuania are in NATO. So the fact of this war really strengthens the appeal of NATO. And it is a reminder to NATO that they can really offer something. So I suspect expansion may be in the cards. Right now, Putin invaded Ukraine allegedly because of this issue of NATO membership, but that was never really the issue because everyone knew that NATO membership was a long way off for Ukraine. For a country like Finland, that process could go much faster. But the idea that Putin's going to now turn around and invade Finland, that seems unlikely. So I think NATO membership is on the table. If you are sitting in Kiev or sitting in Tbilisi, your chances of getting to NATO are in some respects greater now than they were 2 weeks ago because of the aggression Putin has shown.
All right, we'll leave it there. Lincoln Mitchell joining us from New York. Thank you.
Thank you.